April 17th, and we're being recorded. Good. Yeah, so I think everybody has the draft, and I just wanted to first go through some specific revisions that some folks have suggested, and we can decide on those, and then see if anybody else has anything that hasn't been conveyed to me. One thing that I thought it was interesting, Kathleen Corbett, a Democrat, pointed out that we got the number wrong in terms of how many people can serve from a given political party. And she's right. Same thing happened in the affordable housing ordinance. So in 12-2, it should say not more than 4 members of the same political party shall serve on the commission at the same time, which is consistent with state law. We're not obligated to, we could have something more liberal than that, or sort of a greater restriction on the majority party. However, I think we just sort of all been assuming as we go along that we'll just sort of follow state law. So that would indicate that the number of not more than 3 members in section 12-2 would become not more than 4. Does anybody have any problem with that? Okay. Then just going through, Rita Bettino had some comments, and maybe Rita, do you want to, Rita's on, right?
Yep, I'm on.
Great. You want to summarize your what you'd propose to change?
Yeah, let me just look at it. Hold on. Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things was for one of the whereases mentioned, whereas the town council has determined that New Canaan should have an active utilities commission. I don't have yours, hold on. Basically, instead of saying the telecommunication structure, I was just suggesting we take that out and just say, whereas the town council has determined that New Canaan should have an active utilities commission to provide advice, recommendations, and education regarding New Canaan's public utilities. I personally don't think we need to say it, only because that terminology could literally be outdated in a few years. And I know that, I mean, we all know that this is a priority, and if they're doing their job, they know it's a priority. I don't know that we need to call that out.
Rita, where are you? Which paragraph?
It's one of the whereases. Sorry, I'm switching between Tom's draft and my wording, so I apologize.
It's the third whereas, Christina.
Thank you.
And the way I had drafted it, but an active utilities commission to provide advice, recommendations, and education regarding New Canaan's mobile telecommunications infrastructure and other matters involving public utilities in the town. And the reason I had done it that way is at the last committee meeting, I heard people indicating that we should not forget that the main priority of this commission is to focus on cell towers. And so I didn't want to, following Rita's sense, I didn't want that to be a permanent part of the ordinance itself, but the whereas provisions are basically really only an explanation of how how we launched this ordinance. And so I thought some mention there would implement what I thought the committee's preference was to at least say somewhere that the committee should start with cell towers as a priority.
It just feels like in other matters involving utilities, it feels like it's downplaying that part. That's all. Honestly, I don't, if everyone was fine with the way it was, it wouldn't, I'm not going to fall on the sword. It was just more, I just didn't think it was needed, but.
It wouldn't change, this language wouldn't change the mission, and nothing in the mission limits the scope to just cell towers or telecom. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Is it, Tom, do those resolutions get published in where the statutes appear or where the ordinances appear? I
doubt it.
I don't think they do, Rita. It's just it's just like a preamble almost that we would be sort of admitting to the record. And when it actually gets, it's my understanding that when it gets to the ordinance part, like the actual statute would just be the sections that are listed, where it does list telecommunications, but it's in that including but not limited to section 12-1, where it says the term utilities shall include but not be limited to telecommunication services, energy services, and water services that are provided or could be provided to residents. So that definition, we added that language that Kim, I think correctly suggested, the including but not limited to.
Yeah.
So I think there's less of a concern because those resolutions are just us sort of setting forward in the record why we did this initially, but I don't think it actually will appear later as the ordinance might be reviewed by further iterations of the commission.
Right. And I like and I like how you've defined utilities. I actually think that's a good.
So that will be the operative
Paragraph.
language that this commission will be working under, you know, sort of in perpetuity or as long as this ordinance remains in effect, if that makes sense.
Yep.
The resolutions are not the operative language.
Or the whereases or not, yeah.
Okay.
But do you want to vote on that?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm fine either way. If it's more trouble to change it, it was more for me to have it in the record. And if it's not really an issue, I don't feel strongly about it anymore.
Okay. I can't remember. I think it was you also that had, under process.
Yes, I do want to, yes. Mm-hmm.
And did you get we'll fill everybody else in a second, but did you get the suggested language change that I followed up your note with, or?
Oh, so you,
why don't I just explain it? So
Yep.
12.6 under process. I'll read it real quick. Utilities commissions shall utilize a transparent process of investigating and educating the public on relevant technological advances, gathering input on residents' needs and priorities, and communicating its recommendations. And then we would add, and other critical information in a timely manner with appropriate town bodies. I know that doesn't cover everything in your comment, but it's what I had offered as a language change that I certainly would be comfortable with. But if you want to develop that thought more,
yeah. Well, first of all, I just thought, to be honest, it just seemed a little awkward, just the way it was written. Shall utilize a transparent process of investigating and educating the public. Like, it just seems too general. Like, oh, they're gonna be investigating and educating the public on technological advancements, and it may not be technological. It could be other things. Number one, and I think the first thing is really about the prioritizing the needs. And then, so my wording, it doesn't change. I think it just adds, it really doesn't change it too much. It just makes it, in my opinion, a little bit more direct, and it's more about the order here. Let me just get it. Sorry. So my suggestion was, in order to achieve its mission, the Utilities Commission will be responsible for understanding and prioritizing key resident and local business utility needs, investigating and becoming knowledgeable regarding relevant issues and advancements, not necessarily technological, but just advancements related to those priorities. That's the other thing. Like, it really focuses folks on understanding these issues in regard to what's prioritized. And communicating critical information and recommendations in a timely manner to the public and appropriate town bodies. So there's a couple of things that I think it achieves. So I'm going to read it again. In order to achieve its mission, the Utilities Commission will be responsible for understanding and prioritizing key resident and local business utility needs, investigating and becoming knowledgeable regarding relevant issues and advancements related to those identified priorities, and communicating critical information and recommendations in a timely manner to the public and appropriate town bodies.
Anyone else have any comments on that? Yeah, my reaction is the quality of the verbiage is a subjective matter. I like yours, I like mine. It's all fine. I think we should zero in on what substantive changes you would make, and I understand that you don't want to limit the scope of investigation to just technology. That's a valid point. But other than that, I think it's just a matter of style, isn't it?
I think what Rita's suggestion is a little bit more clear and direct.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
I think both are fine. I think if we were to keep the current language, to Rita's point, we should probably flip. We should probably have the gathering input first and then investigating and educating the public on relevant advancements or technologies.
What about, Hillary, what do you think about just picking up Rita's language though, whole cloth?
I think it's good. I think both sort of do the same thing. I just don't want to get caught up in the weeds too much where we're
Right,
overthinking. But I think Rita's is, I think both do the job. So it's, I'm sort of agnostic about it.
So maybe the simplest thing is just adopt Rita's language.
Yeah, I think, and I think it's really good.
Yeah, me too.
And to the extent it's critical information, I just want to make sure I just want to read it through it again real quick to make sure we're not sort of
Me too. Let's take
overlapping with anybody else's responsibilities. But I don't will be responsible for.
I think the one thing I might do is to reverse recommendations and critical information, because the way Rita has it drafted, it could be read to say that it's only the critical recommendations that. But we want
yeah.
to
Yes,
communicate
agree,
all recommendations
agree,
and other critical information.
agree.
I'll take the mac and cheese.
Sorry,
Oh, me too.
it's dinner time.
And I just have a stylistic suggestion because sometimes when there's a lot of ands and commas, I get confused. So I would just, well, never mind. No, I think it looks good. I think it looks good.
But it's just that that one part would say, and communicating recommendations and other critical information.
Yeah, I like that
In
change.
a timely manner to the public and appropriate town bodies. So if you guys are okay with the reading, want to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve. Do I have to read it again or just that recommended?
It wouldn't hurt. It's short. Why don't you read it again?
Okay, I make a motion to approve the Utilities Commission ordinance language to say, under process, in order to achieve its mission, the Utilities Commission will be responsible for understanding and prioritizing key resident and local business utility needs, investigating and becoming knowledgeable regarding relevant issues and advancements related to those identified priorities, and communicating recommendations and other critical information in a timely manner to the public and appropriate town bodies.
Sounds good. So does anybody else have any, Mark?
No, sounds good to me. I was just going to second the motion.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That would be proper Robert's rules. So thank you for your second. All in favor? Good. So that's Hillary, Christina, Mark. Yeah. And Kimberly and Maria Naughton. Awesome. Any other comments or questions? Nobody here is allergic to short meetings, are we?
I thought everything else was great.
Yeah.
All right, so this is what we'll bring to the town council. Just as a clarification, Joe Pallo had read the agenda for the town council meeting, and it says we're voting on this on the 19th. Actually, I told him that if we do vote, it would just be a preliminary vote. The actual binding vote is after we give notice and of the and publication of the public hearing, and after the public hearing, would that, so we haven't scheduled that, right, Steve?
No, the public hearing would take place, usually we try to get these once we adopt it at the regular meeting or move it forward language wise, we should try to get the notices out, the 2-week notice, so then we can get this adopted. We can have a special meeting. I'd rather have it in person, obviously, so we can get public comments. So we'd have to schedule a special meeting to get it pushed through. I don't know whether we want to wait till May to get this done. I mean, I know, we've got momentum. So the question would be, do we meet 2 weeks, from our Wednesday meeting? Or, the option would be we'd have to wait till our May meeting. So I think we've all sort of worked hard to try to move this along as expeditiously as possible. So it would be, at least then the Board of Selectmen can start to populate the commission. Anybody want to weigh in on timing? I mean, is anybody against having a special meeting to move this along for any reason?
I think the question might be, does it have to be in person? And the only reason I'm raising that is because we haven't really have much public comment yet. So
Right.
maybe it wouldn't be the end of the world if we had the special meeting on Zoom, but I'm open to I'll do it either way. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, it's always, I mean, it's always nicer to have it in person, but if people can't come, I understand. I mean, even if we had a few people in the room to sort of be in the room and everybody else Zooms, it's fine.
Okay,
I
so
just want people that want to actually come to town hall to speak, to be able to do that. It's been a pretty big issue. It's been a big issue in town. So,
Yeah.
people should have the ability to weigh in and speak their mind. I mean, it's,
well, we might get people like Kathleen Corbett that would come and give the background of
yeah.
he's hoping to accomplish, and so, yeah, so unless there's an objection, we'll ask Tucker to get the notice thing analyzed and schedule the public meeting in person as a special meeting.
But when will that take place? Are we,
It depends on how long it takes to comply with the notice requirements. So
Right.
I think you have to publish in 2 consecutive weeks. And so
Correct.
that'll drive the date.
so my question is, I still have some questions regarding the documents that you sent, Steve, regarding the library budget.
Well, we're talking utilities commission here right now. All right.
Okay,
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, we can talk about that. We'll talk about that, just so everybody knows, on Mark, on the Dem side, that we're going to caucus, the Republicans are going to caucus after this meeting to talk about a couple of issues. I'll fill you in with results as soon as we have them.
Yeah, so there would be a special meeting just for this. Well, actually, there's also a wording change in the affordable housing thing. So both those things would come up, and I'll have to remind Tucker what that change is. We've already agreed to it. It's just, again, it's the number of maximum of the majority party. But so those two things would go through, but that would be the only purpose of the public meeting, listening and adopting once we hear the public, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you saw it from our budget, right? We have not had a lot of public input, and once the cell tower issue went away at West, this is, I think the public supports the formation of the Utilities Commission. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback. So most of the feedback we'll get at that meeting, I would imagine, would just be somebody coming in to say, hey, thanks for doing that type of thing. And I don't know that anybody's going to speak out against anything, because we really haven't. We're just trying to establish this at this point.
Right. Okay. Unless somebody else has any more to discuss, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Hillary, second. Christina. All in favor?
Hillary, you're advertising for New Canaan Country School. Look at that.
Sorry, I didn't have time to change. Busy day.
Oh, good.
All right.
That's a great school.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see each other. What is it? Wednesday night?
yes.
Yes, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. The agenda's up, so everybody can see that.
Yeah.
Including this issue, the Utilities Commission is on our agenda, so
Okay,
fill everybody in.
thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.